Hi, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bobby Rush. As a blues man, I love Mississippi Public Broadcasting. If you support Mississippi music and their local programming, donate now, right now, and become a member today, not tomorrow. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Doesn't matter how big or small, but we prefer big. Thank you very much.
School choice, rural hospitals, voter access. The 2026 Mississippi Legislature will impact you and your family for years to come. MPB brings you At Issue, a weekly analysis of the legislative session and the issues affecting you with perspectives from both sides of the aisle. Brandon Jones and new At Issue analyst Rebecca Staples join me, Wilson Stribling, every Monday at 5 p.m. only on MPB Think Radio and wherever you get your podcasts. MPB, your stories, our mission.
Happy birthday, Carol.
Oh, now it is your birthday.
Oh.
You know what? I picked that birthday song for you.
Y'all tricked me on the song.
Well, I just didn't want to sing the old happy birthday.
I like that. The
jukebox
Beatles.
version.
The Beatles.
This is more your kind of thing.
Yes. Tomorrow's the birthday, so I'm looking forward to that.
So we're celebrating early.
Yeah, we are.
I wish that those who are listening could see our wonderful hats.
Well, Marissa, can't some of those listening see our wonderful hats?
They absolutely can.
And how can they see our wonderful hats?
You can go to YouTube and type in Deep South Dining. We are currently live streaming, and they can see all of our beautiful faces and these beautiful hats that Carol so sweetly brought in.
And there's a huge tray of yummy stuff in the middle of the table. Carol, can you explain?
I know that your wife, Kara, is a fabulous cake cook. So she's doing birthday cake.
She's doing a cake. It's that pear cake we had the other day.
Oh, my gosh,
that
was
I shared
so good.
with you.
And so we are doing a treat platter so we can share it with all our friends at MPB.
Excellent.
And we have petit fours.
Petit fours?
We have caramel brownies.
Uh-huh.
We have cupcakes with sprinkles.
Excellent.
And we have iced Mississippi
tea cakes.
Tea cakes.
Oh, boy.
So.
Delish. Excited.
I think it's a good birthday.
Thank you.
It's a good birthday platter.
Thank you for celebrating. And for all of our MPB friends who are milling around the studio and the office space up here, you're welcome to come and join us and have a treat. You have to wear a hat, but if you put on the cone,
we'll give you a treat.
We'll give you a treat.
Yes, we will. And
right.
I also brought along, hey, Mel, some Girl Scout cookies.
Yes, because it's March.
Yeah,
and it's Girl Scout cookie.
We want to every week recognize all the young women who are out there selling their Girl Scout cookies. I just found the greatest group of girls yesterday in front of Corner Market. They had a little table set up. There's so many modern ways to sell Girl Scout cookies.
Online.
And you could Venmo.
Oh.
It's new.
Yeah, it's the newest of new.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the cake that Kara will prepare tomorrow, it is National Pound Cake Day on March 4th.
And I love it that your birthday is National Cold Cuts Day.
How perfect.
This is so weird.
Cold Cuts Day. Now, Carol, on March 7 is National Tartar Sauce Question, and I have a quiz for you about tartar sauce. Does cream of tartar go in tartar sauce?
No. That's a big no.
How many people do you think have made that mistake over the years?
I bet there are a few.
A little dash of cream of tartar, a little baking. I don't know what that stuff is.
So what do you put in your tartar sauce?
Mayonnaise, capers, pickle relish, lemon juice, vinegar. La 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 la. I'm trying to think. I was looking at the recipe the other day.
Yeah, that's pretty
It's
much
a seafood sauce, mayonnaise based.
You've got your fat, you've got your acid, and the little pickle relish in there.
So I was on the road last week down to Ocean Springs, and on the way I stopped at Loblolly to load up on goodies in Hattiesburg. And Carol, Donald made a bread I'd not had. He makes a wild rice bread. And he said, here, take this. I was getting other things. And he said, here, take this wild rice bread and make yourself a grilled cheese and it'll change your life. So I took this wild rice bread home and made a grilled cheese, and the next night I made another, and it's really, really good. So I think he bakes it on Wednesdays.
Well, that's great news for all of our listeners, but I'm just personally asking, next time you drive through,
yes,
would you bring me some so I can change my life?
Yes, I will. You got it.
What kind of cheese?
Well, I use sharp cheddar. I'm sure you can use anything.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah, sharp cheddar. Very good. Also, I had some terrific coffee while I was in Ocean Springs. One of my favorite little coffee outlets, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. They roast their own, they grind their own, and it's really, really good, and it's right there on the main drag. It's a tiny little place, but they have two things. They open early in the morning, they close early. They have coffee and waffles.
Wow, can't beat it. Or as my husband would say, can't put a price on it.
Can't. And then I had a lovely breakfast at the Traveler Cafe over at the Walter Anderson Museum of Art. Had a delightful breakfast. And the next day, I was there for a community brunch for the Walter Anderson family friends of the museum. We had a delightful brunch. We had a rosemary fried chicken and waffle dish, and we had shrimp and grits, and it was really nice.
Well, you have certainly eaten well this week. You know, I've mostly been staying at home cooking. And I've been so interested. I have a taste right now for just Mediterranean cooking, just really simple, you know, olive oil and garlic and lemon and herbs. And I did a fish the other night. It was a sheet pan fish. And, you know, the cooking is so simple. I mean, we just threw some beautiful fish fillet, some, you know, vegetables, and
you panade it or broiled it?
No, I put it in the oven.
Oh, you baked it. Okay.
And you know, so they, you know, their sauce is called laudalimino, and it's a Greek sauce. It's just oil and lemon and a little salt and a little herb, and just sprinkle it over the fish. And my husband thought I had just created this divine.
Well, there you go.
Dish, but it was simple and took like 5 minutes. Yeah.
Hey, you know, speaking of Mediterranean food, there is one other meal that I had while I was in Ocean Springs. I love to shout out to the old Phoenician. Been there forever on Government Street, and they were saying that they're moving. They're not far. They were just moving to another part of town. But I've eaten many, many, many meals at the Phoenician in Ocean Springs, and you can't go wrong if you have a little taste for Mediterranean. So that's a beautiful thing. I had the chicken kebabs with rice pilaf and some hummus and a great Greek salad.
Well, there you go.
Delish. All right, what else is happening? You know, I got this magazine in the mail today. It's the Spring Summer magazine for the Mississippi Arts and Entertainment Experience in Meridian. The magazine is called Place. I'm sure they're referring to Sense of Place. And in here, there's a whole piece about Sip and Savor.
Yeah, we're going to be there in
April. We're all
April.
going to attend.
Yes.
So on April.
So it's a big event sponsored by the Max Museum. Max, what do they call it? Cultural Center or the Max?
It's the Mississippi Arts
and Entertainment.
Yes.
Center.
But this is a culinary event.
Yes, and there are like 50 chefs that are going to be there.
And Alton Shia is going to be there from New Orleans.
Alon Shia.
Alon, sorry.
We can
Shia.
ask Poppy.
Yeah, there are several New Orleans chefs who are going to be over there. A lot of Jackson folks. But anyway, excited about that. You and I guess Marissa and Java will be live at Sip and Savor. We do love a live remote.
Yeah, we do.
It's a fun time. All right. So I'll put that on your calendar if you're going to be in and around Meridian. We talked a lot about food festivals last week, and this was one of them, the Sip and Savor, April 11th in Meridian. All right.
Malcolm, I am so excited that after break we are going to have Poppy Tooker on. We've been talking about it. We have so many questions.
So many questions.
We've got so much to talk about.
I mean, she has this amazing radio show in New Orleans.
I know.
We've
been going for
many
7
things.
years. She's been going for 16 years.
16 years this lady has been on the radio talking about
Yep.
New Orleans
Yep.
restaurants and food. And what a great show. I dialed in and listened to several episodes, and I'm excited
Yep,
to
me
have her
too.
come on. So we're going to take a little break, which is what we do,
Yep.
and come back, and we're going to welcome Poppy to the show, and we're going to talk all about her work in New Orleans and Louisiana Eats, and, see what's happening down there. She's recently done a show about some historic restaurants that changed ownership, and I told you I had been listening to that show, so I have some questions about that. But we'll take a short break. Be right back with more Deep South Dining here on MPB Think Radio.
At the Mississippi Arts and Entertainment Experience in Meridian, we believe in the power of the arts, storytelling, and education, just like Mississippi Public Broadcasting. MPB connects communities across the state with quality programs that inform, inspire, and engage. Their audience is loyal and appreciative of businesses that support public broadcasting, which makes underwriting on MPB a smart investment. Join us in supporting MPB. Learn more at mpbfoundation.org.
Hatred destroys the one who hates. The others that you have hated, go on about their business. Who cares of us?
So the legacy of Medgar Evers is an understanding of our own humanity and of our own responsibility of seeing that in other people.
He is written out of history. He's just not included as Malcolm and Martin. To me, it's the 3 M's, and Medgar is right up there at the lead.
Everlasting, Life and Legacy of Medgar Evers. Watch now on MPB Passport. Visit mpbonline.org for more.
School choice, rural hospitals, voter access. The 2026 Mississippi Legislature will impact you and your family for years to come. MPB brings you At Issue, a weekly analysis of the legislative session and the issues affecting you with perspectives from both sides of the aisle. Brandon Jones and new At Issue analyst Rebecca Staples join me, Wilson Stribling, every Monday at 5 p.m. only on MPB Think Radio and wherever you get your podcasts. MPB, your stories, our mission.
Welcome back to Deep South Dining here on MPB Think Radio. We're in a New Orleans state of mind, Carol.
We are, and we got there because Poppy Tooker's going to be on our show today.
Why don't you introduce our friends and family to Poppy?
Well, to all you out in Radio Land, Poppy Tooker is someone that I have known, I don't want to say how many decades. We met in the street of Jackson when I had the Everyday Gourmet, and she actually called on us and sold us cookware and all these wonderful things. Oh. And, we formed a friendship. She taught at our cooking school and just, kept up with her wonderful career through the years. And my respect is deep for the many things she's done. I'm going to read you a list, but I'm going to start with the things that are so important to me. Above all of the things I'm going to tell you, Poppy is a culinary historian and preservationist. I mean, she is truly responsible for keeping some of the recipes and some of the techniques alive, and my hat's off to her for that. But in addition to that, she's a native New Orleanian, as you might expect.
Yeah.
She's a radio host and producer. Her show has been on for 16 years. It has won awards. It's on a public broadcasting. What is it, Poppy?
We are actually on all of the NPR affiliates across Louisiana. So that's KRVS, Red River Radio, WWNO, WRKF.
Great.
We're on them all. They can hear us on the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Well, and that's why I wanted to mention that. Our show goes to the coast, and we go the other way towards Alabama. But I bet a lot of our listeners can pick your show up. But also cooking instructor, culinary activist, cookbook author, but just all around fun person, a true New Orleans diva.
Welcome to the show. We're so glad to have you.
Well, thanks for having me. And, I do have to say, Carol Shop, the Everyday Gourmet, that was one of the very first places I ever taught cooking. And Carol, I think that was before my 38-year-old daughter was even born.
It was before she was born. I had forgotten to ask you. She was not only before she was born, but it was before she was born.
Way before.
Okay, so now we've blown it that we've told them how long ago that was.
Well, Poppy, what did you represent? You called on Carol in the beginning. You were a sales rep?
Yeah, I did housewares and tabletop. I sold Calphalon cookware and Baccarat crystal and lovely, lovely things. It was so much fun to open up Carol's Calphalon account because it was a very exclusive line. Mm-hmm. So Carol was the only account in Jackson, Mississippi.
Yeah, in Mississippi in general, yeah.
Pretty much. And so it was always a delight to sit in the showroom in Dallas and have people come in with the money ready to buy that Calphalon. And I'd have to say, oh, I'm so sorry. I couldn't possibly take your money. I already have an account. And you have a sales job like that, and it ruins you for life.
Yeah. Well, you can tell she was a good saleswoman, yes, and a great cooking school teacher.
What, when you would teach, you say maybe Carol was your earliest cooking. What dishes would you prepare at the Everyday Gourmet?
I taught New Orleans food, but when I was really young and crazy, at one point I was selling I can't think of what you call it. It was like when you make carrot flowers and radish roses and do magical things. And remember, and there were the tools and everything.
There were little tools.
And so garnishing. It was a garnishing.
Garnishing was big. Yeah. There were cookbooks and all these little Japanese utensils. I totally forgot about that.
So it was so much fun because whatever it was that I was selling Carol in the daytime, I sold through in the classes at night. And I stayed at Carol's house, and we used to just hoot and holler and have more fun than the law allows, truly.
That's Poppy, great. Every time I hear the name Bonita or of the fish Bonita, I think of you because she dragged this giant fish into my kitchen, Malcolm, when I lived in Eastover, and we butchered a Bonita. I don't know how.
Boy.
She had this giant ice chest, and somebody had given this. Must have weighed 30 pounds.
Oh, it was adventurous food fun.
Yeah, it was.
It was a lot of that back in the day.
Well, we have so many things we want to talk to you about, and they really were not very organized because we started talking about them. But where you want to go, Mal?
Well, I just want to start by saying, Carol, we've been friends a long time, and you bring good things to my life. And I've never met this lady, and I'm so delighted to connect to Poppy and to know about her career. I guess I really want to start with your radio show, since that's the thing that we have in common here. How did you get started in radio, and is the format you have today the same as the one that you began with, or has it evolved?
Well, Mal, maybe you and I never met, but I know I dined in your restaurant back in the day. So we're not complete strangers.
Well,
but
that is true.
So 16 years ago, a dear friend of mine who sat on the Crescent City Farmers Market Board and also the public radio station WWNO board, we were at the market together one Tuesday morning, and she said, Poppy, would you like to do a radio show? And I said, I could do a radio show. And she said, good, because I pitched it this morning, and I think they're going to call you. And it was right at that time when they were going from the all classical format that had been public radio for so long to the, talk news, whatever that they do now across the country. And so I was the very first locally produced radio show on WWNO.
Wow.
And then the other stations just called me and said, can we air the show? And I'd say, sure, well, you can air the show. And so it's really been an honor and a pleasure. And it's my favorite thing to do. And we started out, the first couple of years, we were in a half-hour format. But then it was a problem with some of the other stations because of how they do programming. So we changed to an hour. So for, I don't know, probably at least 13, 14 years, we've been an hour-long episode. And we've been doing that every week, 52 weeks a year for 16 years. It's a lot of content.
That is
well,
a lot
congratulations.
of content. Yeah, that's great.
But speaking of the content, one thing about your show is you have a record of oral histories that is pretty much unmatched. I mean, you have had so many people on over the years, many who are no longer with us.
Exactly. Leah Chase was one of my very, very best friends. And so from the earliest days of the radio show, I was always looking to talk with Miss Chase about something or another. And when she passed away, we had so much content. And so we have a very special tribute show to Leah that we air every year around her birthday, which was January 6th. And,
that's great.
There are other people, Rudy Lombard, who Lombard versus Louisiana was the Supreme Court decision that ended segregation in restaurants in Louisiana. Rudy was a very dear friend, and I have beautiful content from him. But I think the thing I was the most excited about was this past November in New Orleans, we did one of those 90 for 90 tribute dinners for Jacques Pepin. And I got to interview Jacques Pepin and his daughter and his son-in-law. I spoke with them for almost 45 minutes. It was the most exciting thing.
So they were in his kitchen in Connecticut?
Yes, and we were on Zoom just like this. It thrilled me.
Well, it was thrilling. Now, Poppy, I do have to say that Jacques actually came and taught at my cooking school 4 times, live and in person.
Mm-mm.
And I'll just say that I follow Jacques today on social media. And so, 5 times a week, he pops up into my phone, and I can never scroll past it. I have to sit and listen and watch, and he is so entertaining and so wise.
He's
and
just
so
so
talented.
wise. I know it. I mean, I even watched him scramble an egg
Well, his art is so beautiful.
Yes.
We're all accustomed to seeing his beautiful hands chopping onions and such. But if you go to his website, you can see him actually painting.
Yeah.
And it's really wonderful.
That is so cool. Let's circle back to Rudy Lombard. What period of time was that when they desegregated the restaurants in New Orleans?
It was in the late 1960s. And
Okay.
I asked him, and it all started with a sit-in at McCrory's. And that interview I did with Rudy is one of my all-time favorites because I asked him what had propelled him to that lunch counter. What was his driving reason? And he said, nobody ever asked me that before. But when I was a little boy, my mother was the housekeeper and cook across the street from Pascal's Manali restaurant. And sometimes I'd go to work with Mama, and I would play there on the street corner. And I'd see the people going in and out of that restaurant. And he said, I would think to myself, one of these days, I'm going to go in that restaurant, because he knew inherently he wouldn't be allowed. And when I wrote that Louisiana Eats book that I wrote many years ago, Rudy was in the book, and there's a photograph of him that's my favorite. He's sitting in front of one of those huge picture windows at Manali's with his back to Napoleon Avenue, and you can see the house behind him where his mother was the cook and housekeeper. And he's sitting inside Manali's with a plate of barbecued shrimp in front of him, toasting us with a glass of wine. It's just...
That's true.
Oh, yeah, that's strong.
I
Mal.
love that restaurant. I was fortunate enough to live in New Orleans in 76 and 77 and ran the Bourbon Orleans Hotel, but
he was a small child.
Really? But we found all these great restaurants, Mosca's, Manali's, but not the usual cast of well-known ones. But Manali's became where I would take everybody. If people came to see me in New Orleans, I would take them to Manali's. We'd go to the Oyster Bar. We'd get the little clip, the little number. And I remember taking my parents there. They were so impressed that their child, who grew up in Stone County, Mississippi, was a big shot in Manali's restaurant. It was so cool to put on the bib and eat the barbecued shrimp.
Well, Mal, I wrote that book. Did you know that?
Yes. That's why we have questions. So, what was it like to write that book? At the time, it was the oldest or second oldest continually operating family restaurant in New Orleans?
That's correct. And, a few years later, the family did sell it to Dickie Brennan, but it was just like any family business. They were so funny. They to get them to agree on anything was a lot. And but I had signed contracts from them all, and the project went on, and it was so much fun because I got to dig in all their archives and family papers and pick the photographs that would go in the book, and their archival photography was just incredible. But I'll never forget, one afternoon I was in the middle of the food photography, and one of the brothers asked me to come into the office. So I went in, and he said to me, "Yeah, Poppy, I've been thinking about this, and we can't give people our recipes. I'm like, oh, this is really good. I have a signed contract. I'm writing your cookbook, dude, and we're in the food photography phase." And he goes, "Listen, this is what I want you to do. I want you to leave one ingredient out of every dish." And I smiled at him.
Sure.
And I said, "Don't you worry about that. Let me explain the process. I am taking your restaurant scale recipes and scaling them down for the home cook. And I promise you, no one will ever find out in the book that I could never find the salt in the kitchen. All I could find were the soup-based concentrates." And he hushed up.
That got him.
That's great.
So in the book, obviously, it's the original barbecued shrimp. And what decade of their restaurant life did that come from?
Well, they didn't publish that recipe. That's the one recipe that's not in there. And I can tell you that Dickie and his group, or shall we say, dickering with the recipe a bit. And I completely understand why, having been in the kitchen and watched it. So in the book, there's two versions. There's the version that Mark DeFelice, who was the longtime chef there, one of the brothers, and then my recipe. And I always thought my recipe was better anyway. And if you really want to know the real truth, my favorite place to eat barbecued shrimp in New Orleans is right down the street from where I live now at Mr. B's.
Yes. That's a
Cindy
good one.
Brennan's place. Oh,
That's a
those
good one.
barbecued shrimp. Paul Prudhomme created that recipe, and that's my favorite.
That's what my brother Brad and I always eat.
Really?
Yeah.
I love
Mr.
it.
B's.
So back to that recipe. When in the life of the restaurant did they introduce barbecued shrimp?
Oh, it was in the 40s. That was like a big hangout. It was during the time that Pascal Radasta himself was still alive, and he loved the racetrack and owned horses, and that was the kind of crew that hung out in the bar there. And there was a guy in town who had horses from Chicago, and he told Pascal about a dish he'd eaten in Chicago. And so Pascal got up, went into the kitchen, made barbecued shrimp for the first time, brought him out, and put him down in front of the guy. And the guy said, "These are even better than what I had in Chicago." And so that's how the barbecued shrimp was born. It was in the 40s sometime.
What about the name? That is one of the most peculiar restaurant names. It's Pascal Manali's.
No.
Pascal's.
It's Pascal's Manali.
Manali restaurant.
A whole lot of people call it Pascal. It's it's like an old New Orleans thing to do. I kind of tend to call it Manali's. But anyway, the restaurant was started, 110 years ago or something, by a guy named Frank Manali, who was a Sicilian.
Okay.
And he died kind of early, and he had all these nephews. He had 4 nephews who had been working with him the whole time. And so the nephews took over, and the one who ended up running the place was Pascal Radasta. And so that was his nephew from his one of his sister's sons. And so he didn't want to take his Uncle Frank's name off of it. So he just added his to make it Pascal's Manali. And I don't know if it's true, but it's been said that that's where Ruth Fertel got the inspiration to do Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, because she bought Chris Steakhouse.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when
you
when
hear
we
it
were,
right here from the legend's mouth.
Yes, I know that is so great. Okay, so still at Pascal's Manali, what are some of the other greats?
Well, Tujague's restaurant is celebrating 170 years this year. And if you've never had chicken bon femme or a grasshopper cocktail, you need to head right on over there. Ralph Brennan is celebrating 80 years of Brennan's. Now, he's only had Brennan's for 20, but that's a big anniversary. I think in conjunction with that, Bananas Foster is celebrating 50 years. It was just last year that Antoine's celebrated 180, so they're in their 181st. But the party I'm looking forward to the most is coming this Saturday, because the Sinceris, Al and Sal Sinceri of P&J Oysters, is hosting a huge block party to celebrate 150 years of P&J Oysters, which means that they have documentation that when Oysters Rockefeller was invented by Jules Alciator, Antoine's son, he got the oysters from P&J.
Oh.
Yeah, this is just
there's
taking
no
my breath
place
away.
else.
You know how I love this
This
stuff
is good.
now.
This is rich.
There's
You should
no
have a
place
radio
else
show.
like New Orleans.
Okay, so P&J's is having a street party.
But it's by invitation only.
Of
What are you
course.
wearing?
Oh my gosh, Carol! I do have a big hair clip.
Well,
that's an oyster shell with
Exactly.
a pearl in it.
I was saying you have to have some kind of oyster headdress or
Yes,
headpiece. I should have
definitely.
known. You're there.
But now that I live in the French Quarter, it's just fantastic because I can just run over there any day before 12 and pick up a whole gallon of oysters if I want one. And I threw a party and I bought a quart of oysters, and Sal called me the next day and said, "How many people are coming to your party? I don't think you have enough. Come downstairs right now." And he was at my front door with more oysters.
That's a good life.
I mean, I am living a charmed
That
life.
is a good life.
Sal Sinceri delivers to my front door.
It's beautiful. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a short break, come back, and more from Poppy Tucker from New Orleans, Louisiana Eats. What a great conversation this is. Can't wait to get back to it. If you want to join it, it's easy enough to do. It's toll free. It's 1-877-672-7464. If you have a question or comment, if you want to ask Tukey something about the history of New Orleans food, this is the place, this is the time. We'll be right back with more Deep South Dining here on MPB Think Radio.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bobby Rush. As a blues man, I love Mississippi Public Broadcasting. If you support Mississippi music and their local programming, donate now, right now, and become a member today, not tomorrow. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Doesn't matter how big or small, but we prefer big. Thank you very much.
Together through the years, together in the future. MPB, your stories, our mission.
Mississippi is a place of deep roots where every story matters and every voice can be heard. At MPB, we stand with our local communities, bringing you the voices of those who shape our state through local programming that reflects our culture across small towns to big cities, from the Delta to the coast. We tell the stories that define us, from the music that carries our voices to the leaders who inspire change. MPB brings you the heart of Mississippi, celebrating Mississippi one story at a time. MPB, your stories, our mission.
Welcome back to Deep South Dining on MPB Think Radio. Carol Palmer, Malcolm White, and our very special guest all the way from New Orleans, Poppy Tucker. Poppy, I want to dive right back into this. We just sort of skated past Two Jacks, and Carol and I wanted to touch a little deeper into that. They moved a year or so ago up the street.
Oh, no, they actually moved during the pandemic.
Okay.
I think the move actually was in the summer of 2021. And, you know, I have nothing nice to say about the way that and the reason that had to happen. But suffice it to say that Mark's deceased father had made bad decisions regarding he had the restaurant and his brother had the building. Wow. And right after Mark Ladder, the owner's dad, died, the brother sold it to some very unscrupulous characters, and they have not maintained the property. That was why Mark had to go. It was just crumbling.
Oh, okay.
And the biggest tragedy is that the bar and the mirror could not be moved. And so after Mark moved into the most beautiful new space, closer to Canal Street, the food's fabulous. The Tujague's traditions continue, but these unscrupulous people did tear out the bar and that 300-plus-year-old mirror and threw it in a dumpster. And they claim it's in storage, but I know somebody who has one of the columns that they got out of the dumpster.
Yeah. So,
but the good news is you can still go have
Can
chicken
still go.
bonfam.
So speaking of chicken bonfam, tell our listeners it's not on the menu. You have to know about it. You have to order it in advance. It's a whole chicken. Tell us about it.
It's a whole fried chicken.
Cut up.
That when it cut up into pieces and not battered. It's just like barely floured.
Right.
And it's fried, and potatoes, not like French fries. It's rounds of potatoes are fried also. And it's served together all on one platter. And it is sprinkled with a persillade, which of course is parsley and garlic all chopped up together.
All over the top.
Fine. And so then you throw that on the chicken as soon as it comes out the fryer, which kind of makes the garlic sort of cooked, but everybody at the table better eat it, or nobody's going to want to sleep in the same bed that night.
Now, you can't just walk in and order it, right? Don't you have to pre-order it?
You have to make sure that they'll make it. But
Right.
I think in this 170th year, there's going to be a lot of chicken bonfam on the menu.
Okay, I need to back up a little bit here. So you're saying lightly floured. Did they brine it beforehand? What makes the chicken so wonderful?
That
The
magic.
grease.
Well, no, you know what it really is? It's the garlic and parsley.
Yeah, it's the finish. But it's just a lightly fried, you order the whole chicken. It's cut up in small pieces. It's fried lightly in flour, as Poppy said. Not a lot of batter. Probably not brine, because people order it kind of off the cuff. So they probably just grab a chicken out of the cooler, chop it all up, lightly fry it with just flour, and then put this incredible garlic parsley top on.
I have an idea.
Okay.
Why don't the three of us go
Well, why
enjoy
not?
some soon?
Why not?
Please.
Poppy, you ready?
I'm ready. I live ready. I'm here on the corner of Royal and Dumaine. I'm the Duchess of Dumaine, and I'm ready for everything. We had 100 people here in our house on Mardi Gras Day, and it was more fun. Oh my God, we had a good time.
It's a beautiful home from what I can see of it.
Well, it's rightful that you have finally gotten to the French Quarter to live, so I'm happy for you.
Thank you. It's a lifetime goal. It took me long enough, but I'm leaving here feet first.
Okay, Malcolm, I'm going back to Tujague's.
Yeah, go ahead.
Some questions
Go
we
wherever
talked
you
about
wanna go.
beforehand. Okay, Poppy, so Tujague's has been in business since 1856, and it was only a few years ago, maybe 12, 13 years ago, that they have a written menu.
Oh, yeah. That didn't happen until Mark's daddy died, because Mark's daddy, he just kept things. You know, here in New Orleans, we don't like things to change.
Right.
You go to a restaurant, you really are only happy at, say, Antoine's if it's the same waiter that served you and your grandmother the first time you ever ate there. We don't like anything to change. But this one table d'hôte meal, it just, Mark knew that dining had to change a little bit. So the menu got written down. Now, conversely, the menus have gotten a lot smaller at Arnaud's and Antoine's. I mean, on the Arnaud's menu back in the day before Archie Kasparian bought it, they had potatoes 18 different ways. And I'm not sure I can even think of how to make potatoes 8 different ways off the cuff, much less have it in a restaurant kitchen to send out. It's
Yeah, most
crazy.
restaurant kitchens don't have the
No.
space or the walk-in space to have
But all the
have that
yummy
kind of
stuff.
menu. Yeah.
So one of the recent shows, Poppy, was you listed 3 places that had recently been sold to non-family, and it was Middendorf's, Arno's, and Manali's. Is that right?
Yeah. Now the only one that was really recent was Manali's.
Okay.
That happened about 4 or 5 years ago. Middendorf's, Horst Pfeiffer, who had Bella Luna in the French Quarter, after Hurricane Katrina, decided he wanted to change his life. And so he and his wife went from fine dining to fish house dining. And they've taken meticulous care of that property, and that's been fantastic. And then it was back in the 80s when Archie Kasparian was able to buy Arno's from Count Kazanov's daughter, she was just such a character, Germaine Wells. And so he was able to buy it from her, and he really polished up the gem. And now he's been deceased for quite some time, and his daughter and son carry on the business.
But so the point of the show was that those were 3 historic restaurants that change of ownership didn't change.
Right.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
is the current owner of Middendorf's of German descent, like the original Middendorf's owners? His accent in the interview with you, he sounded like he was German.
Yes, he's very German.
He came straight from Germany. Those Middendorfs, those original Middendorfs people had been around in South Louisiana, living in the swamps for a long time. They didn't share Horst's accent.
But they were German, right?
But their heritage was German.
Yeah.
But German people have been moving here since the late 1700s.
Yes, Horst was a master chef and came to New Orleans, had this gorgeous restaurant overlooking the Mississippi River on the second floor of the old French market. And from there to Middendorf's, wow.
Yeah.
But
And,
Middendorf's does it. I mean, it really,
it does.
yeah, it is so worth it.
Carol, remember Horst's fresh pasta at Bella Luna was kind of revolutionary to us at the time. And he still makes fresh pasta, and you can buy it at the Middendorf's, either one, because there's 2 of them now. He's got one in Slidell, too. And then every September, he runs a special that he calls Fettuccine Frenzy. And there's a couple of days a week when he serves his fettuccine at Middendorf's. Only 1 month a year.
All right, there's so much that I want to get to, and we don't have that much time. Do you still do the walking tours?
I don't really do walking tours. You know, there's that thing on my website because the Popeyes internationally regards New Orleans as their Mecca. And I have been working with them for almost 20 years in various capacities. And I do special things for my friends from Popeyes when they come, because I want to make sure that they learn the authentic, real New Orleans, because they have such a responsibility that, you know, there's 500 Popeyes in Turkey. They are New Orleans' face internationally, so they better get it right. So that's why that's on there, because it was originally conceived. One time they wanted me to give 150 people a tour, and I can't do that. There's only so much of me.
So also, you revived some local foods. The Creole cream cheese is the one that sticks out for me. When I got in the restaurant business in 1974, I was in Hattiesburg, and the fella that was my boss, the manager of the property, was from New Orleans, and he demanded that I keep Creole cream cheese in the cooler for him. He ate it every morning for breakfast. I didn't know what it was, but I later, of course, got to know it well. Tell us a little bit about that journey of bringing it back.
Well, it was something that was largely made by the Germans, but Creole cream cheese is the cheese that naturally forms before refrigeration, when the fresh milk would clabber. And it was a staple there were 200 dairies here in New Orleans proper around the turn of the 20th century. And so the milkman used to bring Creole cream cheese to your door. It was the breakfast of champions. Anyway, in Jackson, Mississippi, when Borden's consolidated, that's where the plant was. And that was the last place they were making Creole cream cheese. And Borden's claimed that it broke in transit. And they took it off the selection. And so then it almost became extinct. Only Dorignacs out in Metairie was making their own. And I sort of spearheaded a big effort to bring back Creole cream cheese. And it's thrilling that it came back with a vengeance. Chefs started making it in restaurants. You see Creole cream cheese cheesecake all over the place. And there was truly a time when people didn't know what that meant.
Well, the ice cream is the Creole cream cheese ice cream. Oh, man.
Yeah, that's yummy too.
Okay, so what about your rice cakes? We've been, are they Kala?
Kala. Yeah, that's another one of those endangered foods, but it's incredible because it's really back. Right now, there's a guy who's running over at the Pontalba a little pop-up Kala Cafe. And kalas are a rice dish that come from Africa with the enslaved people. And in New Orleans, before the Louisiana Purchase, all slaves were required by law to have 1 day a week off. And so they'd be street vendors. And that was one of the days you'd always see Kala vendors on the street, and they'd call out, Kala, Kala, belle Kala tu show, madame, belle Kala tu show. And a Kala is this fried rice ball that's better than a beignet. They were always sold from street vendors instead of at a cafe stand in the French market. And so after World War II, the street vendors pretty much went away, and so did Kala. You had to have it as a tradition in your family.
Well, I'm saying that Poppy Tooker brought it, but you flogged the Kala till a lot of people started listening. I mean, you've been flogging that dish for years.
All right, we've got to go, unfortunately, but Poppy, we're going to have you back. We're going to do a full hour with you in the future. So thank you so very much. Poppy Tooker from Louisiana Eats in New Orleans, Louisiana. Thank you so much. Deep South Dining is a production of Mississippi Public Broadcasting's Think Radio and is funded by generous contributions from folks like yourself, and we thank you. We are produced by Marissa Vaughn. For our very special guest, Poppy Tooker, for my co-host, Carol Palmer, I'm Malcolm White, asking you to stay tuned now for At Issue. We'll see you next Monday for more Deep South Dining.
This forecast is underwritten by